Hey fiber friends, welcome to episode 16 of the Botanical Knitter Vlogcast.
But I lie awake, wondering why.
I'm Emily, I'm a knitter, spinner, sewist. I've changed my intro because all I do is sew now, and I occasionally dabble in natural dyeing. I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and you can find me on Instagram as The Botanical Knitter and on Ravelry as Botanical Knitter. Everything I talk about, or nearly everything, I do my best, is going to be below in the show notes, the info, the video description, but always feel free to comment or DM me on Instagram if you have questions or want to know more about sizing or anything fun like that. I have not filmed for a hot second. July flew by. Today is July 24th. I know that because it is my dad's birthday. Happy birthday, Dad. And I haven't put up a full-length episode since right around Zombie Knitpocalypse, the same time last month in June. Traveling, I don't know. Time flies. It is what it is. But I'm here now and let's do the thing. Today I'm going to walk through my finished objects, knitting, sewing. I have no spinning finished objects. And then we'll talk a little bit about spinning and the failure that is Tour de Fleece for me. We'll talk a little bit about whips. I've got some acquisitions, have some knitting chatter, and we'll just go on from there. Sound good? Let's start out with what I'm wearing. This is the Syd Tie Dress by Syd Graham. I have sewn this before and have talked about it on an earlier episode. This is my second one. The first one I knit the whole pattern, this is gonna be tough, just bear with me. I sewed the size 12. This one I stuck with the size 12 in the bodice, but then went down to a size 8 for my tiers to have less volume in my mid and hip, which I'm very happy with. I'm gonna move my camera. You'll get to see the messy holding, there's the bathtub. So as you can see, it's not as drapey of a fit. It has two tiers, the shorter ruffled bottom tier, this main tier, and then of course it has pockets. I'm really happy with the fit of it. And actually, you know what? I think I went down to a size 10 for the bodice, so I take it all back. Totally modified. Size 10 bodice, size 8 bottom two tiers. I have like a 44.5-inch bust, so it definitely has less ease than the other version. Did 2 ties as the pattern calls for, so I think the size changes were the only difference. No modifications to the pattern, except I'm trying a new thing. So let's see if it will work. I don't know if you can see this sewing. I used the embroidery of my machine. I have a brother sewing machine that I borrowed and now have kept from my mother-in-law, and it's a computerized machine, and so it can do a lot of the monogramming. So let's see if this is better. Can you see that like leaf stitch that I tried to do with the machine? So I did that all the way through the bodice, around the arms, and on the bottom hem, and I really liked how it turned out. I also am loving this color. I finished this dress the week I got back from Asheville, so last week, and I've worn it at least 5 times. I'm obsessed. It's light, it's airy, it's so comfortable, and I love this lemon lime color. I'm really having a lemon lime moment, which you will see as I show you the rest of my finished objects and my current whips. I took my hanging finished objects down because we've reached that time of the episode. Several finished objects to share. Most of them are sewing. I told you, I'm on one right now. I can't stop. I don't know what it is. Ugh. But my first finished object is a hand knit object. It is the Seagrass tank by Samantha Guerin. It is so lovely. It's a little wrinkled because I had it rolled up this way for my suitcase because I wore this in Asheville a couple of times. This was a test knit and it was published recently, so the pattern is available now. It is a lovely, lovely tank top. I used Vanilla Bean. The colorway is Vanilla Bean, and it's a merino linen blend, single ply from Fiber MacGyver. Susie's a Minnesota-based yarn dyer. Y'all know her by now because I talk about her a lot. So let's get into the details of this tank top and how it is probably top 5, one of my top 5 favorite things I've ever knit for myself, and I will knit another. So I think first is the construction. It is very thoughtfully constructed. You start, separate. It's top down, but you start in pieces, and then you join in the round. And you knit in the round all the way down to the hem. I like this construction because I can try it on as I go. It's really easy to check the neck height that you want, if you want it lower, higher, things like that. So I prefer top down over bottom up just because of the ability to fit check in my bust area. This, my shoulders, my raglan depth, my bust is usually where I have the hardest time, figuring out a fit and need to customize. So love that. The detailing, the lace is incredible. It's this really lovely lace pattern that goes all the way down each side in the front and in the back. It is simple to remember. It was not a chore to knit, mostly because you're just doing little, like this little repeat of lace. So I found that great. I also love the shaping details. So here's the shoulder seam. Let's see if it'll focus. And then you can see the shaping for the underarm. Let's see, I'm gonna focus that there. I mean, look how beautiful that looks. I will say, like, any puckering is definitely a me issue. It's a tension issue. But I just love the detail of it. And then of course you have the folded hem. The folded hem for the arms, the neck, and the bottom hem. I think I had several people message me and like they thought this was a machine-made garment. It looks like it's store-bought, and I don't say that, meaning that hand knits, hand designed over machine-made, store-bought. One's better than the other. But I do think sometimes with hand knits, at least for me, you can tell they're handmade. And I just think this is such a polished looking top. I can't wait to wear this to the Capitol. Like, I know this is gonna be so cute under a blazer with like a suit. I've worn it with a skirt, I've worn it with shorts. It's incredible. So if you can't tell, I loved this pattern. I loved testing it. I love Sam Guerin, so would recommend. I already have plans to knit a second in this really yummy merino yak silk. It's moody, it's like this very cranberry Merlot color. I got it last year at Flock, so you might remember me sharing that if you watched my D-stash acquisition video. So yeah, there's that, love it. My next 2 finished objects are the same pattern, but done differently, and that's the Hinterland pattern from Sew Liberated. Here is the first one that I sewed. I decided to do the tank version with the bodice only button placket. I sewed a size 18, and I purchased this fabric from Joann. I know that like wearable muslin isn't a real thing, but I've learned that for me, I feel better if I don't use my expensive fabric on the first try, but I also want to be able to wear something. And so if I still like it, right? And I know you could just use muslin, but instead I used this linen from Joann that I got in super sale, and I did the waist tie option. It is only a 1-tier skirt. As you can see, I need to go back in and I need to do another bit of understitching. For the hem, I could iron it back, but that's that. The buttons are from Dandelion Fiber Co. They're this really cool plastic. Let's see if it'll focus. There you go. This was my first time doing buttons, doing a full button band, and then doing this placket, and I think it turned out really nice. I totally forgot about throwing my label in when I was doing my collar, and it is clearly off center, but you know what? The moral of the story is it is, you know, handmade. So I liked this. I wore this on the trip to Asheville, and I said, okay, I feel like I understand enough about this pattern to now make it in the fabric that I originally wanted to make it in, which is this incredible fabric from Fabelism. It's 100% cotton. It's from their new collection. As you can see, it puffs in between the checker pattern. I love it. So for this one, I ended up doing sleeves, and then I did the full button placket. Sorry if I'm totally getting that wrong and it's driving you bonkers. A couple of things about this one. I stuck with my size 18 for the top, but I went down to a size 16 for the skirt to reduce some of the volume. I'm learning I don't like a lot of volume on my lower half, and because of my bust, I have to stick with that sizing, and it works really well. This one also has pockets. I feel a lot more comfortable with the gathering section. I feel pretty decent about my button work. A little iffy in spots, but that's okay. This fabric was purchased from Lakes Makery, as was the label. The buttons and the thread. The buttons and the thread are more of like a brown purple. I think at first, when I first glanced at this, I thought it was like a black and white, but it really is more of a brown purple. It's hard to tell if it's showing up. But yeah, I'm a big fan. I haven't worn this anywhere yet. I just finished it a couple of days ago, but I'm really happy with how it looks. This one, it's a pretty thick fabric. It feels heavy, so it'll be great, I think, for fall. I think I can see myself wearing this in the winter with a cardigan over it and some black tights with boots or clogs. But I'm really happy with how this one turned out, and my sewing. One thing I did do that I thought I was being really smart on, I was like, oh, before I do my buttons, before I sew the buttonholes and sew the buttons on, I'm gonna hem my skirt. Like, I'll get that all done, so then I'm just done at my machine and can go. Well, then it was totally uneven. There's like a whole inch where I thought I was doing it right. So I learned an important lesson. Follow the pattern, especially when you're still a rookie sewist. But it all worked out okay. So I had to very patiently rip everything out and do it again, but it was worth it. And if you have like a good TV show on, I think it all works okay. Okay, next finished object. Socks. I haven't knit a pair of socks in a hot second. I started these in June when I was at my cousin's home. This is using a True Wolf and Through Love from the Moss Made Me Cry collection from Witchfire Fibers. And I used the String of Lights pattern from Lindsay at Sock Witchery. I've knit this pattern before. It's just like a really lovely texture. It goes quick, it's pretty mindless. I like how it fits me. I knit a medium, used US ones. I only modified the pattern by not doing a fuller cuff. The other thing that I did, so I ended up getting a full sock set, and I split it 50-50 with my cousin. So I only had 50 grams of the main color and 10 grams of the contrast color. So I knew I was gonna keep my heel the same color. I wasn't gonna do a contrast heel, which I also find to just be easier, so then I don't have more ends to weave in because I'm lazy or practical, you tell me. But then I got to the toes, and it had been a while since I had worked on these, and I was like, shit, I can't find my contrast color. Did the dog eat it? Did I lose it? Did I leave it in Asheville? Because that probably happened. So I finished my toes earlier this week. I ran out of the yarn. Like I used all 50 grams of this. So you can see I knit about a finger's worth of black before I switched to the toe deep. Finished the socks. Found the contrast color in the pocket of the project bag. So didn't look at all, but it's fine. They're cute. They fit great. Love them. Good deal. I still have 3 more sewing things to show you. And I don't think one of them I filmed on my last podcast episode. I could be totally wrong, but I don't think I've shown it before. So real quick, spring shorts from Peppermint magazine. I did talk about these on the last episode. I sewed them in the chicken fabric. They were a little snug on me, so I'm gifting them. So I decided to try the pattern one more time. I went up a size and I sewed them in this really fun fabric from Fabelism. Still has the same really lovely details. This is the hem on the outer thigh, the paper bag waist. I did the linen or the cord again with just the fabric. They're fine. I still love them. I won't make them again. So these are a size 16, which is the highest size the pattern comes in. So it's free, but it's not inclusive. And I already talked about this on the last episode. They're fine. They're comfy. They look cute. I love the color. I love the fabric with that this is all thread, but I won't sew them again. So that's me saying I wouldn't recommend these. I think that's a safe assumption. Okay. My next pattern that I sewed is the recess play pants from Matchy Matchy. Matchy Matchy really plays around with using scraps, blocking. I just did one linen color. I used linen from Joann. It has some really beautiful seaming that is hard to see with this dark. I feel like I've had this exact conversation before. Maybe I did include these. I'm sorry if I did. Anyways, I like these. I would go down a size. They're pretty big on me, but they're cute. Yeah, I'm almost positive I've talked about these before. Sorry, everybody. Okay, but I do have something new. My last finished object is a peppermint pocket skirt. I have sewn 2 of these before. I really love the pattern. It's very similar, I think, to the gypsum. It's gypsum by Sew Liberated as well. Free pattern, or you can kind of select how much you want to pay for it, but you can get it for free. It has the really fun, large side pockets. I used Fabelism fabric from Lakes Makery. Is there a trend? Yes, there is. She's highly predictable. I alternated the direction of the fabric. I've seen several people do it with this pattern, and I have loved that look and have wanted it. So I did that myself. I whipped this up in just a couple of hours. It was really fun for me to sew this a 3rd time. About a year has passed since I sewed my 2nd one, and it was really fun to see how my skills have really improved. So like I did more finishing touches than the pattern called for. I felt a lot more comfortable with the construction and like could just whip through it. So I'm pretty happy, and this I feel like was the first pattern I've sewed where I've been like, yeah, okay, I kind of am getting the hang of this. I wore this when we went to the Biltmore in Asheville with my Seagrass tank from Sam Guerin, and it was the cutest outfit, if I say so myself. This is a plug for my Asheville vlog. It is like a knitting travel vlog. I haven't really done one of those before, so I thought I'd try it out. It may or may not be posted, but maybe it is when you're watching, and go check it out. Whew, okay. That's all my finished objects. All right, let's whip it out with whips. That was my nod to Leisure Needles. My first whip I'm going to show you is my Pride and Progress Cowl by Carissa Browning. Yes, Carissa Browning. Here it is. I am using the Leading Men Fiber Arts Pride box that came in June, and I shared on an earlier episode. You knit 2 squares of the rainbow flag. So I'm through here. And then you work in you use the last 5 colors that are part of the progress flag to attach it. So it becomes this kind of uniform cowl. I worked on and knit both of these pieces while I was at Twin Cities Pride. My work had a booth there, so I had a fun time hanging out with people, connecting with folks about legislative work, policies to impact the LGBTQ plus community, and work on the Pride cowl. I haven't worked on it much since, but I need to get going on it, and I will probably gift it. And that is in my Barley Pearls library bag. My second whip is a pair of socks that I cast on 2 days ago. I finished the String of Lights socks and really was wanting to knit another pair. I don't know why I'm really enjoying socks right now, but I'm gonna lean into it. If you remember, like, I've kind of lost my sock knitting mojo. The first year I started socks, I knit like 27 pairs and have kind of been about them since. And I think this is why, because I just love this pattern. This is the Little Checks sock pattern from Summer Lee. I can't stop knitting them. I'm using Goth Babe from Silly Goose Yarns. And then I'm using Spruce from Silly Goose Yarns. And then this really yummy Lemon Lime from Wandering Flock. I can't remember the colorway. Maybe it's like sorbet, something like that. I'll put it in the show notes and you can see it on my Ravelry page. But the two together are so fun. This almost looks like it's glowing in the dark, like it's that kind of neon. I'm really clearly having like a lemon lime neon-y moment, which I feel like I do every time this time of year rolls around. I don't know if it's like the greens outside, the sunshine, but I'm loving it. This is a fun pattern. I haven't done colorwork socks in a hot second, so I went up a size. I'm knitting a medium. I'm using size 2 needles for the color work. Here is the floats. Are the floats flashing them to you? They're pretty good. It's puckering right now, but I know once I block it, it'll look great. The pattern calls to knit the leg to 6.5 inches. I'm at about 5 inches right now. I'll probably do the full 6.5. Then I'm going to place waste yarn across the back half of stitches to do a peasant heel, which is an afterthought heel, but instead of having to cut in, you can just remove that scrap yarn and pick up, it holds your stitches for you, so you don't have to worry about doing any cutting or dropping stitches. So then I'll just be able to kind of keep cruising on these. And I really like using the black for the contrast color. I have my second pair started, the second of the two, and I'm through the cuff. I like to kind of knit back and forth, doing my version of 2 at a time using small circs. And that is also in my Barley Pearls bag. I think colorwork socks are a really good way to keep me engaged on the sock knitting. It feels like the pattern flies by. I've seen a couple of really cute patterns and I've started a Ravelry favorites folder of colorwork socks. There's some that have quilt patterns. I've seen some adorable fruit and vegetable ones. If you have a colorwork sock pattern you really like, let me know. I can link to that folder just to see if anything's missing. But just let me know because I feel like that's kind of the direction I'm going in and I really like the vibe of them. All right. The last whip I'm going to talk about today is my Versa Shawl by Bridget Zhou. BZB Knits is Bridget's designer and Instagram name. This is a test knit for Bridget. It's a special shawl that's coming out for Flock, which is just a couple weeks away in Seattle. I'm not going to Flock this year, which I'm pretty bummed about, but I will be at Sacred Sheep in Portland in November. This is a 2-color brioche knit flat. The construction is so cool. I'm not giving anything away and you should definitely buy the pattern when it comes out, but you're working out and down. You're decreasing the entire time, so it feels like the pattern is going by so fast. I know knitting is knitting and it's the same amount of time, whether increasing or decreasing, right? It takes the same amount to do the stitch, but there's something about decreasing where it feels like every row is quicker. And I love it. I haven't done brioche since I did my brioche Advent shawl during Vlogmas a couple of years. Was that last year? 2 years ago. 2 years ago I did that, right? My first Vlogmas year. So it's nice to bring back some brioche again. It's like riding a bike. Picked it right back up, and I forget how much I love brioche. It's so rhythmic. It's so gratifying to look at, especially to color. So I knit this whole bit here during the week I was in Asheville on vacation. I just picked up and started this last night. Shout out to Bridget for just like being really patient with my really dumb brain. I was having like the total brain fart moment. I know we all have them where you're like, oh my God, that was the most obvious thing. Why could I not understand it? So thanks, Bridget. I am using my May CSA yarn from Carissa. I can't remember what the blend is. Teresa, I think it was Corriedale, and maybe some alpaca. I'm gonna look it up and I'm gonna drop it in right here. And then I'm using my handspun for the contrast color. This is Hello Yarn. It was one of the Hello Yarn Fiber of the Month. I think it was maybe September, no, that doesn't work. January or February of 2023, because I ended up submitting this yarn to the Minnesota State Fair and got 4th place, which I was a newer spinner. It was exciting, I couldn't believe it. And I love how it's knitting up. You can really see the color changes. And then I think it looks so nice against this gray. So this has been a really enjoyable knit. It's so fun to see how the color is changing and progressing. And there's something about knitting with your handspun and knitting with yarn that your friend made that is just like doubly rewarding. Love it. I did not spin this in any special way. I split the braid into 2 and I spun it top to bottom on one bobbin, top to bottom on the other bottom, and plied it together, and was consistent enough that it really is preserving that natural color change that was in the braid from the dyeing style. So really obsessed, if you haven't gathered that at all. So hope to have this done by the next time I film, and I'll post about it and promote it, but it really is a beautiful, beautiful shawl and absolutely beginner friendly. If you haven't done brioche, Bridget has videos set up in her pattern already. Would totally recommend it. And I have it in my beautiful sister Heather project bag, which is, and this fabric is the Spin Cycle ice dyed fabric. And it really goes quite beautifully with my knitting project, if I say so. I have one spinning project on my bobbins right now, and I have been working on it for a hot second. And this brings us to the point of the conversation where I talk about the failure that was my Tour de Fleece. I had all of these plans about spinning every day of the tour. I love to watch the tour, like it's very enjoyable. Maybe that's where I got inspired by this too. It's like my own like yellow lemon lime jersey, but thought I was gonna spin every day. I didn't forget, but I wasn't really acknowledging that I was gonna be gone for almost a week, going to Asheville. I was supposed to be in DC this week, but because of the flight issues with CrowdStrike, couldn't go to DC. So like I was gonna be gone for 10 days, and I still was like, yeah, I'm gonna spin every day. I don't know if I thought I was gonna take my electric eel with me on the plane or what. So what I did do is I spun 2 bobbins, spun up 2 singles. I shared this beautiful fiber from Little Fern Fiber Co. And it is, the colorway was eucalyptus, I believe, and it's Falkland, 100% Falkland. I have the second bit on my bobbin here, another bit here. So I have 8 ounces total. I was not paying attention. I just split all the fiber up into little bits, rolled them into little balls, and was just pulling at random from my big basket. There was some difference in each of the 4-ounce colors, even though it's the same colorway, just that happens with hand dyeing. And so this was my way of like naturally mixing it up. And I did 2 full bobbins or fullish bobbins, and then I realized that it was going to be a pain. So what I decided to do with the remainder of the fiber, and I had about 5 ounces left, is I split them in half. So I did 2.5 ounces, 2.5 ounces, and then kept doing like the little balls. So I'm going to do 2.5 ounces on this bobbin, 2.5 ounces on a 4th bobbin. I'll ply these 2 together, and then I'll use the small bobbins to finish off whatever's left on this bobbin, each of these bobbins, and hopefully it'll work out. And then whatever I don't, like if I just have a little bit of a single left, I will wind it into a ball, and I'll just ply it from the inside and the outside of the ball, holding it in my hand, which is always kind of a pain, but it's a good way to use up all of my my spinning. I am spinning this pretty thin, or I'm trying to. Right now it's feeling pretty consistent, so very honestly, this might be my state fair entry. I'm doing mostly a forward draft, so worsted spun. So I'm not by any means like a fiber spinning pro. I do occasionally this very weird like hybrid of a long draw, but then I also draw it back and pull in a way that like compacts it down. It works for me. It's a flow. It looks nice when I spin it. I'm sure with experience I'll get better about like spinning how the fiber wants to be spun, but this seems to be working. It's spinning nicely. I don't feel like I'm fighting it. Eventually this will be some sort of shawl or color work something. It'll be 8 ounces of a 2-ply DK, I think. And that's my spinning. I want to share 3 acquisitions with you. I laughed. So my friend Kristen has started a new podcast recently. It's Where We Knit. I will link to her below. And on her 2nd episode, she talks about how her husband's always like, why do you all call acquisitions? And it truly is just like a nicer way of being like, here's my yarn shopping problem. But it's just nicer to call it an acquisition. So here's my acquisition section. The first is the most recent fiber of the month from Sam at Lavender Loon. The colorway is Spring Laundry. It's 100% Rambouillet. These colors are so fun. They're pretty, it's similar to the braid that I got at Zombie Knit Apocalypse, those lime greens, but it's a little bit moodier with the red patches through it. And it is inspired by this piece of art. There, that's better. Spring Laundry. You can see the bits, the red house, the red laundry. Sorry, I know it's not the best, but I like to keep them in the plastic till I figure out how I'm gonna frame them. My second acquisition is from Plank and Stella. Plank and Stella put out that they were needing to raise some funds. I can't remember what for. And so they were doing custom colorways for a person. So you just kind of said what you like, what your favorite color is. I, of course, said green, and I am obsessed with the colorway that I got. The greens are so fun. Some moody speckles, lime green, a little bit of minty aqua, and then they included this really cute stitch marker that had the corresponding colors in it. They're like, it's like a little confetti thing. And I love this. A skein family. So again, we're having a lemon lime moment. It's fine. Everything's fine. I will probably, my birthday's coming up, so depending on how quickly I get through the little checks socks, I'm gonna cast on another pair of socks for me for my birthday using a skein family. All right, and then my last acquisition is some beautiful, beautiful yarn that I was able to help Carissa at Get Bentz Farms make. I had if you remember back, I had this big jar of all of my scraps, and mostly just the ties from each skein of my 2023 knitting projects. It was like this big ball jar, all different colors. So Teresa and I talked about using it to make some Tweety yarn for me, and she did, because she's amazing. So I went to the mill, and I'll put in some footage after this to show you. I cut up all the bits. I helped run it through the drum carder, and then Teresa put it through the draw frame where you really thin it out to get it ready for the spinner. It is a lovely Corriedale and alpaca. It's this dark brown black, and the tweed bits are pretty subtle, but I think they'll come out as I knit them. So you can see there's some blues, some reds, some whites. It'll be really subtle, but I think I'm gonna make an Ingrid pullover with this. I think the texture is gonna be yummy. It kind of fits in with my goal of slowing down my knitting, not knitting something because it's gonna go quick, but knitting it because it's gonna be this beautiful piece that I'm gonna wanna wear. So I have 1,700 yards of this yarn, and I'm so excited for it. I need to swatch it up and get going. Just because I want to knit it now. My last acquisition is a project bag. It is from Bentz May, and it is glorious. Toby made some incredible bags, and they made them to order, so you could customize how you wanted them to like play around with the different flowers, patterns, and it's Cenotype, I don't know how to say it, but it's using light and pattern and shadow to make these bags. This is a waterproof zip bag. I had ordered a drawstring one in the spring, and I loved it, and then my dog ate it. I don't know if you're catching a theme in my life of my dog eating things. So I was thrilled when they said they were gonna do custom orders. So I picked out ginkgo leaves, ferns, and then on the back side is this really cool piece. It is a glass mushroom, and the glass shadows made this space, and I think they thrifted it. So you can really see there just these really cool mushrooms and then ferns. I'm in love with it. I'm gonna put a link to their shop because it's so cool. I think that's all I have to share, to show with you. I'm gonna sit back and get in my chair because now it's time to just connect and chit chat. I don't have a ton to share. Went to Asheville, there'll be a vlog about it. Was supposed to go to DC. You heard me say that the whole crowd strike thing threw off all travel, and weather wasn't a friend. So I got to stay home, which truly is not the worst thing. Works quite-ish right now. So I'm enjoying that and embracing it. Otherwise, we've had a brew and knit with you. We were just at Surly, so I'll have some footage in there about that. I've spent some time at the mill with Teresa, helping her with some mill chores. It's just a joy to be able to learn and to spend time and come home covered in little bits of fiber, but that's pretty fun. I have family coming into town. The next couple of weeks are a bunch of birthdays. My dad's birthday, my cousin Haley's birthday, my husband and I both have birthdays less than a week apart. And so that'll be fun to have all of them coming up. We're gonna take them around Minneapolis. They're staying in an Airbnb fairly close to my home, so walking distance. And I'm just very excited for my family to come up. I am very close with my family. They are my friends. And so I'm excited to see them. Other than that, I feel like we have a brew and knit with you coming up in August. It's going to be at Darn Knit anyway in Stillwater in their Makers Lounge. So I'll put info to that below. You can also follow the Brew and Knit with You Instagram account if you live in the area and you want to just be aware of the dates. I think I'll have something fun to share about an event that I'm working on with some dyers and some makers and some shop owners to have a yarny, spinny, fibery block party. So stay tuned for that because I think that's something you'll want to know about. But fun things ahead, I think. So yeah, I'm gonna go work on my brioche. I am going to enjoy this like chill late afternoon, early evening weather before it gets really hot again. Because you know, this wouldn't be a Midwest podcast if I didn't talk about the weather. All right, well, I hope wherever you are well. Stay tuned for the vlog footage coming up so you can kind of come with me on all of my fun yarny events, my travel events, my foodie events, and kind of see some of my life outside of this little chit chat. And I'll talk to you soon. It smells so good. It smells like sheep.